Hello and welcome back to How to Improvise in Music. Last time we ended with a promise that we would talk more about dominant chords and adding more tension, but I've changed my mind. So this time we will talking about adding even more notes to chords to add to the color of the chord. Of course, we've seen triads, and we've seen seventh chords, and a very logical way to go further is to add more thirds, because this is a third, this is a third, this is a third. So we go from 1 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 9. So the 9 is the first addition, and you can hear that the 9 really adds something to the chord. Of course, this is the root position where we play everything as is laid out on the keyboard with the bass note and a stack of notes. We can also reharmonize, we can also have another voicing of this chord like this. And you hear that the 9 really adds flavor to the chord. This is without the 9, and this is with the 9. It kind of ties the room together, as they say in The Big Lebowski. Okay, of course, that was the 9. Of course, now we can go on 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. We can play the 11, but the 11 is only half step away from the third. The third is the E in this C chord, and they clash. So in a major chord, we actually almost never play a natural 11. In a minor chord, however, let's stick with A minor. In a minor chord, the 11 doesn't clash with the third. It gives a very nice extra sound to it. Especially when you lay it out a bit larger and you play it like this. It really adds more flavor, or you do this. So the 11 you only apply on minor chords because otherwise they will clash with the third of the chord. We move on. We're almost done. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. 13 is a really nice addition on dominant chords. Let me play a G7 chord, a dominant, the 5th degree of C major. And now instead of playing the 5, I play the 13. Instead of playing the 5th, which is the note D, I play the 13, which is the note E. And you can hear this is really a jazzy sound. And it can resolve to the 9 of the first degree. So the 13 you actually usually play on dominant chords. Now we're done stacking notes, because when we keep stacking, we reach 13. When we keep stacking thirds, we end up with the root note again. And we already played the root note. So the 13 is the max of possible additions. Now there are two notes that you can add to a chord that are that you don't construct in this stacking way. The first one is the 6, and the 6 is in the C chord, is note A, is the same note as the 13. The 13 was here. It's also an A. But if you don't use a 7 and a 9 and an 11, but only the 6, you get a very nice major sound. So instead of a major 7, you can play a 6. You can also use this 6 on minor chords. C minor, C minor 7, C minor 6. You often hear this when there's like a cross melody going through the chords. It's like C, B, B flat, A. So the 6th can be used in both minor and major chords if you don't color too much, because it might clash with the 7. So never use the 7 together with the 6. Last but not least, or second to last but not least, if you're into pop music, if you're into gospel music, you will often add a 2 to a chord. And what do I mean with a 2? It's just a triad, but you add, in this case, the note D. And you hear that this note D really gives a nice atmosphere to the whole major sound, especially when you play it like this 2 really tightens a chord. It's a really nice way to get a more round feeling for your chord. You can also use it on minor. So experiment with all these additions, and you don't have to use all of them. Just play around with all these additions, the 9, the 11, the 6, the 13, the 2, and see where it leads, because they all add a little flavor. And it's like cooking. You have to add just the right spices in just the right volumes to get the perfect taste. So play around with these additions. I have one final trick up my sleeve, I wanted to say. That is about sus chords. And sus stands for suspended. So suspended in this context means a suspended third. Once again, we play a C major chord. And now we suspend the third with the 4th. And you hear immediately this wants to resolve. And sus chords are used a lot in popular music, a lot in jazz music, gospel, religious music, because they give some tension within the chord and then they resolve. Of course, there's multiple ways of building up bigger sus chords. Like in a minor key, C minor 7, you can add the 11, the F, and it actually has a bit of the tendency to work as a sus chord, because the F wants to resolve to the E flat in this case. So if you spread that out, you can hear that it wants to go back. Sus chords are a lot of fun, because you can play a chord and just replace the third with the 4th, and it will give immediate tension in the chord. So if you have for instance, a very long chord that you keep playing, then you can always just alternate with the sus chord. It will also give some notion of movement to the whole thing. That's enough for now. Next time I think I will give you some examples of what is now improvisation. With all this knowledge we have, how do we proceed? And I promise I will talk about dominant chords later. Okay. Study every day and please tag along. Okay, bye-bye.